Hello, friends. We're back for day 3 of our SignalR extravaganza. We have a special guest today who needs no introduction. You've probably seen him here before. It's Mr. Sam Basu. How you doing, Sam? Alyssa's here with us as well. How are you, Alyssa?
It is morning.
It's morning. You are only 1 hour behind me, Alyssa. Come on now. Drink up the,
Really,
the cappuccino.
5 hours, in my heart. That's where some people are night owls and really love 1 a.m. Like staying up to 1 a.m., not getting up at 1 a.m. I'm not crazy. But yeah. What about you, Ed? How are you doing this beautiful Arctic morning, at least on my side of the world?
It's chilly here, but it's not freezing cold. I do have my ginger beer out on the deck, cooling off. Though it's that cool. It's not going to freeze it, but it's going to keep it nice and refrigerated. I'm using that as my office fridge for now until I get my fridge fixed. Sam, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. What an intro from Kevin Griffin. You have not seen me for a full 8 minutes. I was doing a stream and I stopped short. Hi folks from joining in from Facebook. So yeah, I stopped short. So you folks didn't kick me out.
What were you talking about on your stream, Sam?
Blazor, something that you might have interest in. Hybrid apps, you can actually bring the Blazor love into mobile and desktop now.
How is that?
Just a web shell, web view. That's one way of doing it, but you can also, so Blazor can sit right on top of Xamarin Forms, which is native place, so you can actually build native cross-platform apps with Blazor.
So is this the Blazor mobile bindings, or do we have something new?
Both. So the Blazor mobile bindings is what helps you build a native cross-platform app, and the hybrid side of the story lets you just plug in a web view and just have it show whatever web content you want, and that works for desktop and mobile as well.
Nice. So we're going to be talking about some SignalR today. You are my go-to expert for all things mobile. So I thought we might get a little mobile perspective on SignalR. We talked about like the server bits and stuff with Kevin Griffin yesterday, and we saw some of the web bits with David Pine on day 1, and Alyssa and I built the groundwork for building a web app. So we need some mobile guidance. What does the mobile landscape look like with SignalR?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I sent out a tweet this morning saying, I feel old. All of you web guys make me feel so old, guys and gals. So I understand I'm not as cool enough as you folks. I don't write as much JavaScript as I probably should. But again, the reality is that there's a lot of stuff on desktop. There's a lot that runs on mobile. So could we bring some of the SignalR like real-time goodness over to desktop and mobile? I think that's what you want to get into today.
Yeah. I thought we could talk about that, and then maybe we could circle back if we have enough time and talk about how we could have more than one client attaching to the server. So we might have the same web experience with a similar mobile experience, but they both use the same hub or something like that. It might be interesting to kind of
In fact, I'll see if I can get it to work. We can actually have the same backend, like the same server, kind of serve up any type of client and multiple clients at the same time. So we'll try to connect it to a mobile and a desktop client. How about that?
Yeah, I think that'd be good. I think that's something Alyssa's been trying to figure out for a little bit here.
Well, okay. And before we dive into the weeds, I'm a little confused on, okay, so like from the web point of view, when we talk about mobile, it's the same languages. We just make sure that everything works on mobile, or maybe you're listening for mobile events instead of desktop events. So like, what are you guys talking about? I like
Sam-
if Ed was like,
let's dive in.
"Determine
Yeah.
it's mobile,"
So when-
I'd be
when
like,
I s-
look, it's mobile now. Like
When
is
Alyssa and I say mobile, it means media queries
You're talking
and
web. Yeah.
the Chrome browser on a device. When Sam's talking about mobile, he's talking about it from
Slightly
an
different.
ivory tower called native mobile.
Yes. And we restrict access to that ivory tower, and unless you do .NET or XAML or Swift, you're not allowed. You can keep doing your web stuff on your web platforms.
I have a lot of respect for the native mobile folks. There are a lot of nuances
Yeah,
to
there's a
building
lot.
for mobile that I think we take for granted on the web.
Yeah.
And I think, Sam, you have some pretty good perspective. You're my go-to person for these things. So
Yeah, I'll
much
try.
appreciate you coming on today and helping us out.
Yeah, absolutely. And in the chat room, our good friend Kevin is saying, started my career in WinForms. Same here. Battleship Gray. Everything was so simple, so productive back in the days, right? You could just drag and drop stuff and you could build a desktop app. And I mean, WinForms is still around and still popular. Web Forms is still around, and it tries to kind of, it initially tried giving the web folks the same experience as in desktop. But yeah, so what Kevin was saying, like, could we have some real-time stuff? And I was trying to tune in a little bit, like the stuff that Kevin showed yesterday, the 911 thing, was that desktop or was that web?
That was web, I believe.
Okay. But I mean, you can still get the same thing if you just put it in a shell inside of a web, inside of a desktop or mobile app. Yeah, Battleship Gray. Okay, so yeah, let's dive in. Do any of you want to pull up my desktop? And let's see where I'm at. So yeah, you see my browser here. And actually, this might be a pop quiz here. I actually do talks on SignalR, and I'm dating myself. I keep saying over and over again, I'm old. And I had gotten into SignalR way before like it was cool, and this was like early days in 2012. I think like David Pine was talking about it. So let me. I actually pulled up a deck, which again I'm not going to show you PowerPoint, but just to maybe get you folks thinking. Hang on. How do I go into this mode? Okay. Does the chat room know who this is? Anyone?
Older gentleman in a suit.
really
Anyone?
tie.
No one knows who this is? Alyssa, no?
I think you gotta give him a second. We're on different platforms.
Okay.
This is
Anytime
your
you do a quiz like this, there's always a little bit of delay. So
Yeah.
I give him like 5 more seconds before you say it.
this is
me
Sam's
personally,
financial advisor.
Yes.
I don't think
I
I've
wish.
seen
I would actually
his
love
face
that.
before.
Chat room?
Oh,
Anyone
yes,
seen
yes,
this
like
gentleman?
Kevin. I don't know if that's
Yes, Kevin Griffin. There you go. Okay, so taking you back a little bit to history. So this was 1989, I think. This is Sir Tim Berners-Lee. Now, the internet as we know it, like TCP, IP, and all the protocols that we use to communicate, that's been around. Like if you remember like the DARPA net days, like it's been around since the 1960s. But this gentleman was credited with what we know as HTTP today, the hypertext transfer protocol, right? And he was working at CERN, the physics laboratory in Switzerland and UK, and this was kind of his brainchild. He's still on the web consortium, the W3 standard consortium, and things have come a long way, right? I mean, we have HTTP2 and all that stuff, but the fundamentals haven't changed about the web. It is still a request and response thing, right? Somebody has to make a request and then you respond. So, and did David Pine talk about Alyssa? And I know you're being very brave and you're like deep in the waters here with .NET. But did he talk about like what SignalR uses behind the scenes, like some of the technology that it uses?
Yeah, we got into it a little bit. If you're talking about things like protocols, or
Yes, yeah.
not what you're
So
talking
let me show you, man. This may be a little cool visual here. Let me see how this will work. Yeah, okay. So what SignalR is doing is it's just using some of these things. And I have some like funny stories with each of these things. So like if you consider a client and a server, this is like taking your child in a car. And the moment you start driving, they're like, are we there yet? Are we there yet? And it keeps on going, right? That's what regular polling is. We prefer not to use this, and SignalR doesn't unless it really has to fall back. This is what actually it does quite a bit. This is long polling, where if your child asks you, like, are we there yet? You just don't respond. You don't respond until you actually get there, or maybe until they're throwing a tantrum. So at any point, the server has a thing that you can respond to. And then the clear thing here is, we can also do some server-sent events. This is where like a lot of the streaming platforms use needs more poops meter.
That is a long story from
get out of here with
yesterday.
Graphics.
Thanks, I didn't know the story, but yeah, graphics. Thanks.
Yeah.
So these are some of the things it uses. Like this one's a bidirectional push, or not? It's a unidirectional push actually from the server. Like you listen to an event, and then the server just keeps on sending byte pieces. And then this one's the kind of the best thing if we can use it, WebSockets, which we all know, right? This is where you do the handshake, and if you're talking the same language, then it's full duplex bidirectional communication.
Where my mind just goes fuzzy, because what is that even, like, how is it even possible to have this open green arrow, like open connection? Like what is that? Like in my mind, like hardware doesn't work that way. You send, you receive, you send, you receive. So like this seems like a lie to me, and I don't trust it.
Ed, do you want to chime in?
Sure. So if we go back to like earlier days of development, where me and Sam came from, I don't know about the folks in chat, but I've done some local desktop development before, and this was before the internet. I know we're dating ourselves here, but before the internet was
so cool.
a widespread.
You heard it here.
Thing.
Ed was alive before the internet.
So when I built like a VB6 app, for example, it didn't have a server to talk to. So you just kind of accessed everything right there on disk. You installed your program, and maybe your database was local, or you fetched it once in a blue moon from some kind of central place, and it was not a live connection by any means. So it wasn't really on a server. You might fetch a file, a literal like cached copy of the database or something. So the programming model is a lot different on something like that. You're not making a request to get data from somewhere. The data's there. You just access it. And I think these WebSocket and gRPC style of programming models kind of go back to that type of programming model where everything feels like it's local, even if it's not. So we can make this remote call to our database and talk to the server application as if it is part of our local environment. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. We're getting some feedback on your "I was alive before the internet" in the chat.
I remember the days before pineapple pizza too.
Hey, nothing wrong with pineapple. Salt and Burnham, good to see you, my man. Good to see you. Okay, so Alyssa, when I talk about WebSockets, here's my example, and it's a little bit on the edge, and like Kevin Griffin will tell you, like, we can't talk about this stuff, but I can. I mean, I'm brown, so when I go down to like parts of Florida or Southern California, right, folks will come up to me and they say "Hola," and if you say "Hola" back, or like Mexico, for example, the Spanish will fly at you, and I'm like, I don't understand a word of it. I look like you, but I don't understand. I don't speak Spanish.
No.
So,
and then you're like stuck in a conversation that you
Exactly.
don't even understand.
Exactly, and it just like flies at you. So this is the same thing, right? So you need to have a server, and you need to have a client that can both speak the same language. And then this is kind of low down. This is not HTTP. I mean, it is, the overall thing is happening over HTTP, but this is a little one level down. So it's like smaller bite-sized communications going back and forth between the client and the server, and not based on a request and response. So it's kind of on its own. Guten Tag, Sam. Yeah, I do know a little bit of German. Yeah, not much, just that. Yeah.
I guess so. Whenever he was showing the cat example and talking about how there was like I don't know the terminology for it, but like the server was doing like zero work or something, and he was worried that it was broken, but it wasn't broken. It was just working that smoothly. That, I don't know, it just seems kind of magical. Like that's even possible, and I don't know. All of this lower level stuff is really hard to grok for me. So
hang on a second. Alexa, do not disturb me. Yeah. My voice assistants like to just come on and do things. So this is right. Like, and this is like an older slide deck I'm showing you. Like when HTML5 first hit, you folks might remember this time. Like this was like magical stuff, right? It's become much more well supported now. We kind of take it for granted, but this is like really magical stuff when it happens, and then you can have a persistent connection. And at any time, like you can have something sent back from the server to the client, and the client client can request anything. So it really is bidirectional, and it's nice.
Are there any downsides to this? Like, why don't we do this for everything?
We would like
That's
it
a great
to.
question.
We would like it to do it for everything. I think the downside is like, well, there's no bandwidth misuse per se, because again, it's only when you need the data to be transferred back and forth. But you may not have this working on every like mobile browser, for example. I think the Chrome-based ones will do it, but it's not like support is still not given for every platform.
Okay.
I think one of the
one day be like a thing, like that's just what you use.
Yeah.
My reservation here is that you require a persistent connection. So you're building something in mind that you're not going to get, say, a mobile user that's roaming and knocking off the internet every few minutes and coming back online, in between dead spots or dead zones. So there's some considerations that need to be taken about like reconnecting clients, what happens if they're trying to get data when they're not connected, and that can be very complex, and it can be user experience breaking. Yeah. So I think that's another reason that this isn't so widely adopted, is we're used to that restful, disconnected environment, and it works with our current networking scenarios with mobile devices and roaming, and like here in the US, you can easily get into outage situations. So trying to enforce that somebody has a persistent connection somewhere is kind of a pipe dream right now.
Yeah, and in the chat room, the real Dave Bull, those are like some really good points. You're talking about hardware limits here, and on the server side, this takes a little bit of an effort, right? It's threads that you are just keeping around to serve up these clients, and that makes it difficult to scale at times, right? So, and then especially if you have things behind like a web form and you have like a load balancing thing, these are all things you have to kind of carefully consider, because you have to have like retry logic if you are depending on WebSockets. And if something fails, you have to reestablish that connection back up. So it takes like a little bit of work on the client and the server side.
So what was the default again? Like whenever I'm like, just throw SignalR in, I start using it, I haven't set a protocol.
The default is WebSockets. Yeah. So let me try to pull it up here. This is the old one. Hang on. And I know Kevin and others get in trouble for calling it SignalR Core, but that's how I search. That's how you end up on the newer thing. So I think it starts doing WebSockets, right? So the default is WebSockets, then it's service sent events, and then it's long polling, and then it really doesn't like to go any further back. But I think it'll do regular polling if it has to. But those are the four. Yeah, Kevin, legacy SignalR. Oh, and in that, hang on, where did I closed it? Hang on.
Who are we ticking off? Kevin said that really ticks them off. But who
yeah, the ASP.NET team.
Oh.
Oh.
Yeah. Oh, actually, these two gentlemen. Okay. So, so the story is, Alyssa, that oh wait, I can't scroll. There you go. So this one is David Fowler, and this one is Damien Edwards. He's from Barbados, I think, or somewhere in the Caribbean, and he's from Australia. They both work on the.
Are you saying like that everyone behind this technology is named Dave?
No, Damien. David.
David.
Damien. Yeah.
Wait, there's two Davids? Okay, I'm good.
Yeah. So like I said, I go back. So these were the two that were initially responsible for doing the legacy SignalR, is what we call them. Like this was back in 2012. They were having a really hard time collaborating over a document. So I think they just took it upon themselves and their teams to do something better. And that's how SignalR was born. And it went through a few iterations, and they at one point, I think in 2016 or so, they stopped supporting it. It always had support for the older thing, but for ASP.NET Core, we didn't have it for the first 2 years while they were getting everything else together. So many days, yes.
Do you have to worry about, so on the mobile side of life, do you have to worry about what protocol you're using, or is it just because you were saying that some mobile browsers don't support WebSockets?
Yes, yeah, but the good thing is you don't have to worry about it. You let SignalR worry about it, right?
Wait, how do you? You can just ignore the protocols entirely, and it'll swap it out.
Yeah. It falls back, right? It looks at the client, and if it's a mobile browser or if it's a mobile app, it will do different things for the client and the server pair. So it'll do the fallback.
Okay. Wow, that's really cool.
Yeah. So shall we try pulling this together? And let me see. I think I've had a few apps, and Ed's going to shout at me for not actually writing a lot of code on stream, but I already had some demos, and I can tinker around. I can change up a few things. Let me pull up some stuff here.
While you're pulling that up, I just want to remind everybody that we are doing prizes. We do the prizes. Fill out this right here to enter to win prizes. That is all. That is my prize spiel.
Nice. And Alyssa, let me ask you a question. Did you do any jQuery? Or
did I do any jQuery this week or in my life?
No, just in life.
So when I went to college, the first thing I learned was ActionScript, and then we migrated from ActionScript to JavaScript, and this is within months of each other. And then right after that, I learned AngularJS. So I have done jQuery with TJ on stream, or my husband's let's build this real quick. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we could spin up an app. And he's like, nah, we'll just throw in some jQuery. And I'm like, oh God, what's happening? So that is me in a nutshell.
Yeah. Don't hate on jQuery. jQuery is quite good.
Exactly.
Not
if it's well written, jQuery apps are so easy to follow. They work well. Keep building them. I don't care.
So I might actually hurt Kevin Griffin's feelings here. He's like, don't bring jQuery, but I will show you a little bit of jQuery, because that's kind of to old school guys, that's the easiest way to manipulate and muck with the DOM if you had to, right? So let me show you what this is, and we'll dive into some code and actually see this in action. Okay. So what you see here.
There.
Yep, there is a hub. Okay, so this one here is just the traditional SignalR standard templated project, and everybody starts with a chat application because that's what you have to do, right? So this one's a chat application. It's got some dependencies. It's just got the ASP.NET Core, and it's got SignalR. So that's it. So with that, this one here has these are, again, folks in the chat room, if you're wondering where some of this code is, this is pretty much standard code that's in the docs, right? So you start here. I think if you go down here, get started, this is what I'm showing you. Okay, so there's no rocket science here. Just start with the default template, be it Visual Studio on Windows, be it Visual Studio Code or VS for Mac. Oh, and Alyssa, have you seen VS for Mac? Or is it the first time?
I didn't know that was a thing. I thought you had to use VS Code if you're on Mac.
No, you don't have to. So this is not VS Code. This is Visual Studio for Mac. Not as much of a beast as Ed's is. So Visual Studio on Windows crashes probably several times a week. Mine crashes one or two.
No, Visual Studio on Windows since the .NET 5 release, I'm done. It crashed on me 3 times just this morning. I'm through with it. I don't know what they did to that poor thing.
I'm from a world where you open your text editor or you're in Vim and you're like, burr, 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 and then you save and you push and then you go about your life. So are you talking like it just disappears from under your feet while you're coding? Like what?
It crashes, so yes, it disappears.
It is a crash monster. I'm through with it. I'm using Visual Studio Code today. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah, VS Code doesn't crash, but Visual Studio, for better or worse, Alyssa, this is a very, very rich IDE. It's not just a text editor, and it does a whole bunch of things. Like it connects to your repos, to the cloud, and it does builds, and it can push and pull.
Instead of using terminal to like.
It has a terminal built in if you want, but like especially for like mobile developers, like it's really easy to just have those like hit play and then it just automatically knows how to go and deploy. So I'm on Visual Studio for Mac today, but you don't have to, because everything that I'm showing you, it's perfectly doable on VS Code. But just I wanted to make that distinction that I'm on Visual Studio today. Okay, so here we start off with exactly how every SignalR thing starts out. We have a hub, and this is going to sit on the server. It's in memory, and we're going to send off whatever we get to every client who's connected. And Ed, we hear your clickety-clack keyboard quite a bit, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks. And then this is how our app starts up. Nothing spectacular. We are adding SignalR. And we have a map to that particular hub that we want to talk to. And for SignalR on the web, we have two sides to this, Alyssa. So we have a server side, which is kind of built into .NET Core. And then we have a client side, which is a bunch of JavaScript, right? And you can bring them in anyhow you want. Wait, did I lose connection or you still hear me?
No, I'm still here.
Yeah, okay, so...
Is this mobile? Is this a mobile app or is this what? What are we?
Not so far. This is just all web. I'm just showing you the website first, right?
Really? Okay, I'm with you.
Yeah. So Sam has two cursors. I want two cursors. Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Whenever.
Oh no! It was just like hanging out there, and then you saw another cursor. No, I have one cursor.
No, you have two, and we're all jealous.
Okay, so you don't have to do this, but this is one of the ways. You can pull down your JavaScript however you want, from anywhere you want. This is using a service provider. It's a CDN.
The sidebar font bigger, or is it not like that in Visual Studio?
Sidebar, like on this side, like on the left?
Yeah, I didn't know if you could plus the font over there. Or...
No. You can plus the font on the text, but for this one, you have to kind of zoom in and out like that.
I just didn't know what.
Yep. Okay, so I have a few JavaScript things that pulls in stuff. This one is using a CDN called Unpackaged, and again, you can use whatever else you want. And then we have some client-side code, which essentially has this is straight out of the docs, nothing spectacular. So you got two input controls, and then we have a button, and then we have a div tag, which is going to show you the unordered list, and that's it, right? So if we went ahead and just ran this straight up, this is just web. Right, so let's do that. And
you don't have a route on that page? That's weird.
There's already a route, yeah. Sam is the only 9.5x developer now.
Yeah, because you lost your two cursors, so it took you down from 10x to 9.
Yeah, I know. I'm not as cool enough anymore. Okay, so this is what you get, right? And let me pull up Edge here. And maybe we move this thing to one side.
So I forked and then pulled down what Ed was working on yesterday, and I wanted to work on the styles, and I ran .NET Run in the client, and that didn't work. So then I ran .NET Run in the server. What did you just do through the IDE to get?
This is doing it depends a little bit. So there are two different build systems. There is an MS build, and then there's a .NET build. This one being an ASP.NET Core app. I mean, I could have done a .NET build or a .NET Run, and it'll do the same thing as like all I did was from Visual Studio, I hit this big play button or this run button. It essentially does the build and then the run. Make sense?
I thought the run handled the build.
Yeah, it does. You don't have to do the build. Yeah, you can just do the run and then it does the build for you. Okay. So this is the classic chat app that we always start with, right? So this is user one, and this is saying hi. And obviously you know what's happening here, and this is user 2. Now this one's on the Chrome engine, but it's Edge, as you know. So I'm going to stick to my Spanish here. So hola. So you understand this is what's going on. Now by default, this is doing things over a little bit of JSON. This is WebSockets, right? So if I go back here and let me see if I can remember my shortcuts. No, I clearly don't. I don't want mail.
JSON to binary? Is that where you're? Is this where you're?
Just the format in which it's carrying the data back and forth. Hang on, let me pull up DevTools because I clearly forgot the. Oh, it's I. Okay. So
the server is Node.js and the client is the Angular.
Yeah, exactly. And the client can be anything. This one here is just it's a web client, right? So this one's just using JavaScript, but you can use Angular, you can use .NET, whatever.
Get surprised for such explanations. That was amazing. Thank you.
Okay, so right down here, you see that this is in DevTools, we're looking at WebSockets, right? So if I go up here again, user 3 says hello, and you're going to see this come down. You see that? Now this is in plain text, so you're actually seeing this stuff going back and forth. Does that make sense? Like it's just little JSON packets being carried back and forth over a WebSocket.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yeah. What's nice about this is there's no HTML that's being sent over the wire. It's allowing the app to re-render whatever it sees fit. I don't know if that was the case in the older versions, but if we go back to Kevin's example from yesterday, he said they were doing a web app with, a web forms app before they used SignalR. And it was using an update panel, which does send a bunch of HTML over the wire.
Yeah.
Really?
This one is kind of as clean as it can get. So, sorry, Alyssa, what were you asking?
No, I love it. The thought of sending HTML.
Yeah. Well, so by default, this is what it does. And it's using the serializer and deserializer that's built into .NET now. It's using system.NET and JSON parsing. So this one's nice, but you don't have to use it. If I have time, I'll show you. Like you can do something like message pack, which is kind of a binary serialization. If you really care about the bits going back and forth, and JSON, this is human readable. You don't need things to be human readable. So you can just do binary serialization and deserialization. That way you don't get to read what it is, but it's a little bit of a smaller packet size, right? Makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, it still makes me sad because I love some JSON. So.
Yeah, and you can always do JSON. That's the default, okay? Okay, so this is what is the hello world for SignalR, right? This is what all the web kids are doing, but you have me here to talk about other stuff, right? So let's talk about other stuff. So let me pull up another instance of Visual Studio, new instance. You can probably hear my kid coming back from school, and he's excited. Aww. He's always excited. All right, so let's do this one here. And Ed, how long do I have before you kick me out and you go back to building your stuff?
We've got about 20 minutes.
Oh, geez.
You could take longer if you'd like, but we don't want to hold you to longer if you don't have time. If you need to get to the family or whatever, you're welcome to tap out.
I can talk for as long as you would have me until you kick me out.
All right. Sounds good to me.
Okay, so Alyssa, going back to where we started with the web stuff, you'll notice that I think they have it listed somewhere, or maybe not. No, let me go back here to where are the real-time apps? Trying to get to just the here, supported platforms and clients.
Are video games over WebSockets?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of them do, heavily. Like all the real-time in-person shooting games use some form of WebSockets.
Like Destiny, like when you're on, even if you're on like a console, not on like a computer.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, some form of WebSockets. Or again, like SignalR, they probably have like fallback plans. In fact, like if you use anything Office related, like any like Word, PowerPoint, Excel, anything that you throw in SharePoint, anything that you're collaborating with your team, that is actually happening over SignalR. the last I knew. Okay, so don't quote me. But what what we did was, so SignalR works out of the box for web stuff. We know that, right? But then we are talking about client side, and the clients can be multiple things. It doesn't always need to be a browser. So which is why you have all of these clients. You have a .NET client, which being .NET works everywhere. So that's nice. Yeah, Kevin is talking about this is the good stuff. Cross-platform clients. For the 3 people in the chat room who are still doing Java, you have my hugs. No, I'm kidding. You can do Java, but there's a Java client, right? So you can do Java over SignalR. And these 2 have never been like officially supported because they're not like Microsoft thingies, but you can do C++. And if you're doing a pure Objective-C or a Swift client, you can do pure iOS connecting to SignalR, right? So I'm going to use this one here, the .NET client, because it works across a lot of different things. So let me go back here. So this one here, what I'm showing you, Alyssa, is what's called the Xamarin Forms application, which is .NET, but we can use this to reach iOS and Android and other things. So in here, what you'll see is there is a dependency on a SignalR client, right? So that's the thing. This is what enables the SignalR connection back to the hub that is sitting on the server side. Does that make sense? This is my client-side thing. Instead of JavaScript, now there's a little bit of a DLL, which is a small package that lets you connect up to it. Make sense? Mm-hmm. So here's what we do. This is a little bit of XAML, which is kind of looks like XML. Let me bump up my fonts here. So it has the same user and the message. So you see where I'm going with this, just to kind of replicate the same experience on the web to other things. And here's a little bit of code here. And this is very boilerplate. No matter what type of .NET client you may be writing, it'll run on just about everything here. So right up front, we are using the SignalR client. So we are letting the app know that that's what you use, because that will give you access to this hub connection. This is our connection back to the hub, which is sitting on our web server, right? So we try to connect up to the hub using a start async, and then in this case, we are going to connect up to my local host because that's where my local server is. And notice how I'm going off a specific IP and a chat hub, so it knows the routing exactly. So when I go back to the server, it's not surprised, like, who is this new client? It knows exactly which route to get to. So I'm listening in on that server. And when I click on a button, I can invoke things on the server, right? So this one here, it's sending a message, it's invoking, and this is where it gets a little kind of a little scary at times, because you are depending a little bit on magic strings. So this one here is invoking a message, like this particular function on the server. And if you don't have that function, it's just going to fail and just crash and burn. But you can have some type safety in what you're doing. So what it's doing is it's invoking that send message thing on the server, which, as we know, it's right here. It's a hub method, right? It knows how to send messages. So now we can pull up this app on a mobile front, and I'm an iOS guy. Works the same way on Android as well. So we'll give it a second. What's the chat room saying? Yeah, good to have you hang around here, Kevin Griffin, and give me a hard time. But it's good. It's
I always like seeing you load up these emulators. This is some like cool stuff. They're little VMs that run on your machine. And I saw an interesting article we shared on our podcast on Monday. There is a mobile emulator now for virtual reality. Mm-hmm. So you can go into VR and pull up a mobile phone emulator and test things in environments that you may not have access to. That just like blew my mind. You're like total inception of development tools at that point.
I hear you. Yeah, these and actually, hang on for a second. I had to change something on the config, so I'm going to pull this up again. So the mobile simulators have come a long way. It used to take forever, especially on Windows, to have these things come up, because they're little VMs behind the scenes. But now they work with all the Hyper-V stuff, and it's nicely virtualized. So let's see if this will come up again. I got my simulator up. Maybe it's building. And there it is. Okay. Oh, I forgot to put the user in the message here, but you get the idea, right? So now, where were we? Is this thing still up? I think so. All right. Now we are into fantasy land of envisioning something you have on the web, and then you also have clients who are on mobile, right? So web could say hello, and right there it shows up, right, on the iPhone. And here my iOS could say, oh my God, this works. And I hit that message. It is instantaneous, right? So what's happening here? Alyssa, questions? Or you see what's happening?
Yeah, I don't understand why you wouldn't just go to the website on your mobile device.
Because here's the answer. Okay, look
Sam
down.
gets a gray hair every time I ask him the same thing.
Yeah. Okay, look down in your phone, okay, and take a look at how many apps you use as compared to how many websites you use. And for most people, the number of apps is more.
No,
So we like having apps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And within the app, you can totally roll with web stuff. Like the user doesn't need to know, but we like having an app that is, I mean, it could be a PWA, maybe you pin it to your home screen, but this gives you an app you can search on, and when you launch, it's a native experience, right? So that's what people like.
So you have two different SignalR apps running right now that are connecting to the same port, right?
Yes. Well, one app in this case, this website is both a server and an app. So what you're looking at here, this is the web client, and this will be the same if you use any other web technology like JavaScript or Angular or Vue. It's all JavaScript, so it works everywhere. And this is not the SignalR app. This is just the client side that knows how to invoke that method on the SignalR hub, so we can send messages back and forth.
Is there any way to have like a mono repo of sorts where they're all in the same build, I guess, where it's like it's got both clients and the server, and you just like run it, or does it need to be? Because you opened a separate project in order to do this mobile.
Yeah, exactly. You don't need to have a separate project. This can all be in the same project. So if you're building this as a dev team, you can all this iOS app, you can just all keep it in the same project. It doesn't matter.
Yep. And just for some clarity too, the web app and the mobile app both are connecting with their own SignalR connections and their own WebSockets to the same hub. Just so all the terminology is straight there. So they're both sharing a hub, but they both have their own connection. They both have their own WebSocket.
Okay.
Okay, with me?
Yeah.
So far, so good, right? Now let's do one more switch up here. So the way this is working is, again, we're doing magic strings here, right? So we are invoking that method. We are grabbing what the user has typed in, their name and their message, and we are sending it off to the server. When the server sends something like from the web client, how does our mobile client listen in? We simply have an event listener here called the receive message. So that way, going back to the server also is invoking a receive message method. It's a function, right? It has to be a function that you write in JavaScript for all of your web clients. And in this case, it's a function written in a .NET client. And this says, okay, I'm going to take in whatever the user and the message is, and I'm going to show it to you, right? So this is just like 101 of getting it working on a mobile device.
Whenever it wouldn't, like if it was live, so it wouldn't be like 5001, it would be whatever for like once you publish this live.
Mm-hmm.
How would that work to make sure everybody's connected to the same hub?
Well, and this is where you're going to get into tricky territory. So, and we can actually try this out right now. So this is what you'll use when you're local, right? You're testing things locally. You're working with your dev teams. You don't know what exact port you're on, but eventually when you publish your web side of things, your hub, then you'll have a URL, right? And your mobile app here, and maybe this URL, like where exactly it connects up to, maybe you just don't have it inside the app itself, because then otherwise you'll have to update the app, or maybe you have to kind of coordinate the web release. You have to have a URL first, and then you push your app out. Or maybe you just pull this in from a cloud service, just like a secret or something like a key or a token. You don't have it hard-coded in your mobile app, right? You just pull down the URL, so that way you can change it on the fly. Yep. All right. So this is one, and then let me talk about one other aspect of this. So let's go back to the web side of things. So what it was doing here is I had a little chat.js, and this was where Kevin Griffin was saying, don't bring jQuery, but this is the easiest way to get into it, right? So this is my client-side code. So I have like an input called text, like 2 inputs, and I have an input of the type button, and I can refer to those things, right? So whenever you hit the send button, we are essentially grabbing the user's name and the message, and we are invoking this function on the server, right? That's what was happening. And this is all based on strings. But what if you did something a little bit more realistic? Because you don't want to just pass on strings back and forth. So here is an example where we do a slightly different thing. Here, we have sort of like a dashboard. So envision where you have folks who are out on the field, maybe with a mobile device. Where's the jQuery? Kevin, this is the jQuery. This is the document get element by. I don't know if you want to call it jQuery. This is how I used to manipulate DOM and just grabbing elements off the DOM to get stuff, right?
Yeah, that's not jQuery though. That's just JavaScript.
It's just JavaScript? Okay. Well,
the dollars and the shortcuts and such.
Okay, so maybe it's JavaScript. That's good old JavaScript.
That's just plain JS. My favorite framework.
My brain kind of hurts right now because you're using JavaScript and HTML, but you're calling it a mobile client. Do you have a shell of some sort? Why is this mobile?
This is not mobile. This is all the web stuff. This is what the web client is using. You ran
a mobile simulator. Don't try to trick
me. No. This is what I'm showing you is the website. All of this is just all web. The mobile stuff was just all .NET.
Oh, I'm with you now. Okay, sorry, I was lost.
Yeah, that was just the web client. But I am going back to the web client to show you a slightly different angle to this, right? So if we change things up, if you envision like, we call it, again, we can show our age. It's called a POCO object, which is a plain old, like a C# or a CLR object. If you had an object that you wanted to pass back and forth, not just a bunch of strings, then POCO, plain old CLR object. It's old school, and I'm old.
That sounds fun. I need to go Google this.
I'll put it down. POCO. Not with a capital, but you get the point. Plain old CLR object, because everything is coming down into a subsystem.
CLR?
CLR is a common language runtime. It's what it's what .NET apps use or used to use, and now they're using a separate variation of it. When you build a .NET application or some C# or F# application, everything gets compiled down into an intermediate language, and then it goes down into machine language for whichever platform that you're working on. And that intermediate language, that runtime that bootstraps everything and runs everything and holds everything up in memory, that's called the common language runtime. So any object will just be held in memory, and we used to call them POCO objects just to kind of hold things in memory. In the chat room, M2dev.net, Matt Milliken. Hey, good to see you, Matt. It's our good friend out in, Milwaukee, somewhere in Wisconsin, if I remember right. Yeah, we got to go all the way back to 2000 to explain these terms. Okay, forget POCO objects, just an object, right? So here's just an object. It's just a object-oriented language. So envision that we are dealing with like some sort of a complex object, not just a bunch of strings here. Chat room is having fun with my POCO objects here. I get it.
Cracking me up. It's cracking me up.
All right. So if we wanted to do slightly different things here, so here you'll notice that I have another page in my client side, which I can pull up right here. If I go to the dashboard here, this one just has like one input and it has 2 buttons. What's happening here in my JavaScript, or well, not jQuery apparently now, it's just JavaScript, is I can handle bigger things. Like it's all JSON, right? At the end of the day, it's just JSON back and forth. So I can create like a chart data object, which has like all of the properties that I expect in my JSON object, and I can send that whole object back and forth instead of just strings. Does that make sense?
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm confused. Are you trying to put a chart in your chat?
Yeah. That's exactly what I'm doing.
Why is this happening?
Not chat. So let's switch up. So I'm going to change up my my starting page here, so we can go a little bit beyond just chat. Right, so let's go to a dashboard, and again, envision like your folks having a mobile app or something on a tablet. You're out on a field. Maybe you want to keep tab on what's going on the server side. Chat room, yeah, Milwaukee. Okay, loco. People will think you speak Spanish. I don't know what loco means in Spanish. What does it mean? I don't know. Maybe you can enlighten me, Kevin. Yeah.
That means crazy.
Kevin is saying, I wish I had a company that knew amazing charts. Yes, that's where I'm getting to. Okay. So I'm going to show you just a hint of Telerik UI, just to kind of show you like these things are very possible if you have a dashboard type app that is powered by SignalR. So you have a web backend that probably has like sensors that you are looking at, and then you have a front end, right? So let's change this up and try running this again. So now you'll see the same mobile app, except we switched the main starting page. So now you're not going to see the chat anymore. You're going to see something slightly different.
Wish you had Peacock.
What is what?
I wish you had Peacock. In VS Code, John Papa made an extension called Peacock, and it changes, like it lets you set a theme for like each instance. So whenever like swap over to mobile, it's blue. You swap over to the web, it's red, or whatever. And that way, it's because I just keep getting. I'm like, oh, we're in the mobile. Like I thought we were not.
Yes.
So.
No. That's a good idea. Like when I'm talking about the web side of it, I should have it different colored. So you know. And again, this is unpopular opinion. Like I'm not big into the dark theme. I use it sometimes, like when I'm coding, especially at night. But
both, Sam. I think dark can go kick rocks, but I'm also like really hard of like I have really bad vision, and so anything that's like high contrast, I'm all about. So.
Yeah. All right, so Ivana has the chickens and things out because you know what I'm bringing out here. These are some charts and graphs because, again, if you're building a dashboard, you probably are looking at some fancy controls. So team light mode, yes, thank you. So what this one has is two controls, and these are, full disclosure, these are Telerik controls because I'm just trying to show you what it can do just with a SignalR powered backend. So this one here is a gauge, and this one here is a grid, which is like super simple. But here's what we can do. We can bring up our web backend, right? Now, keep in mind the gauge here is sitting at 0 right now. So we can do like a gauge update. You see that go up?
Wait,
so
do it again. I missed it.
You missed it. Oh, you missed it. All
Sam,
right.
this demo is engaging.
Oh,
All right, do you see it move? Maybe the animations are not as fluent going over the wire, but the needle goes up and down nicely. It's not like not like jittery on my side.
I did not see you update both views.
It's right here. So this gauge value is literally controlling where
the code. I didn't see you add gauge abilities to both clients. I just
I'll show you. It's just one bit of string here so far. So again, when I do 25, it comes down. On my side, like the needle is coming down slowly, but it's just like a hard thing, I think, over the stream. So you can see that here's a dashboard, and I can control. I think if I had sensors that I'm listening to, it will go up and down. You can envision like a dashboard type thing. And this one here is a grid, and it is showing you just those two values, A and B. So I don't have a UI for it, but if I hit this update button here, what's the chat room saying? Don't take it away.
Above 80.
I can. Here, I can go up to like 200. All the way out. It's red. Everything is on fire. Okay. So if I do a grid update, and sure, I can throw in like two text boxes so you can enter those values. But you see those values at 20 and 30. When I do a grid update, they change to 5 and 10 because it's just hard-coded just to show you a demo. So now you have a web backend and you have a mobile front end, which is kind of like a dashboard, and you can listen to things on your mobile device or your tablet just to kind of get you a little thinking about these types of apps that are functioning.
So when I was doing full-time dev, we built something similar to this that took a machine and read data off of it and then pushed charts to the shop floor and showed like somewhat real-time charting. The bad part was SignalR didn't exist yet, so we were doing long polling. So this thing would refresh every probably, I think it was 30 seconds to a minute, which the machine operators would have rather had real-time data because they were looking at these charts, and if they went past like Mr. Magoo said, 88, for example, they would have to shut the machine down or break some $1 million piece of equipment. So timing was critical, but we had it tuned to like, well, I think the best we can do is 30 seconds because this is expensive. SignalR would have been a major like improvement over what we had.
Yeah. So the big benefit here is like, since it chooses the network stack and then the transport layer and the protocol, you're not wasting bandwidth just getting things back and forth.
What's really cool though is it doesn't have to be like an input on one side. It could be like an IoT device.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So this, Alyssa, you were asking where did the dashboard go? So this is the UI for the dashboard, and all it is just like one input here for the gauge value. It's just a string. And then when you enter that, I'm grabbing, when you do a send, I'm grabbing the value. So like these things, like this is still like this is not jQuery, right? Ed, this is just JavaScript, like how I grab.
That's vanilla JS right there.
Okay, so then it's vanilla JS. So I literally grab that gauge value, Alyssa, and I send it over on through that method. And that's how the web listens to it, and that's how the mobile client listens to it. And when I, no, go on.
So just quick jQuery talk here. The reason we had this jQuery stuff was because if you did like a document get element by ID, all the browsers did that differently. Mm-hmm. So now document.get element by ID is a very standard thing, but jQuery had that $sign operator that would do this all cross browser happily without blowing up on, IE 6 or whatever it was that didn't do this the right way.
Cool now. It doesn't need that.
Exactly.
No, that's good. Yeah, it is cool. Yeah, and you got to appreciate like the browser wars kind of slowly settling down, so everybody knows what to support. And I mean, there are still differences, but it is things like this you can safely know. So this one here, like for the chart update that I showed you, Alyssa, this one's hard-coded to like 5 and 10. But if I throw up like a couple of input controls, or like Ed was saying, like for the dashboard, like you could be listening to an IoT device, and then you'll automatically have the updates on the server, and then you push it out to every client that is listening.
Can we look at, so you're calling connection.invoke, and then you're passing send dashboard update. Can we see that?
Yeah, that's just one function. And so when I call that, it's actually calling this particular server update, right? And it's just sending a string. It's getting the string value, and it's just sending it off to all clients, which you don't have to send to all clients. You can group the clients together. You can send it to specific clients if you wanted to.
So the JavaScript is remotely calling a procedure on the server. So there's where your RPC, remote procedure call, comes from.
Yeah. These are all RPCs, gRPC, SignalR. They're all invoking remote procedures. Sorry, you were saying
receive dash update is like a magic string?
No, this one here is calling a function back now on the client side. So this looks a little confusing because
client side then. So
exactly
is on.
This function needs to be on every client that you want listening. So, and this is where it gets a little confusing because this is the client side. So the client side is making a call back to the server to say invoke this method, and the server turns around and says no, invoke this method on every client. So this is the function that has to be on every client. Like this one's on the web client. I have the same thing on the mobile client, which I can show you real quick. If I go back to the dashboard view, there is my receive dash update, right? So every client that is connected to that same hub and that has to, or that wants to receive an update, needs to have that method so the server can invoke that.
Is there like a spot in your app somewhere that's specifying like receive dash update, receive object update, like these are like the strings and this is available to us, like, or is it literally just wherever you need it, that's where it's used? Or
Yeah, and this is probably not as clean. So I have a hub. So the hub should be your one source of truth, and I'm sure there are other ways of kind of listing them out in like in a factory type pattern, or have like an enumeration, so you know exactly these are the methods that the server knows, and these are the methods that the server wants to invoke on every client. But this is kind of just kind of
You can so you can do a hub of T in this and assign
exactly
those all without magic strings.
hub of
But the
T? Like,
clients,
what are you talking about?
we could probably do that on our app in a little bit, Alyssa.
That'd be so cool. But what term did you just say? 'Cause
Of T or of type. So you could say I have a hub of this client type, and it will have all the commands that are available in that type. And it's kind of just a dummy contract that gets rid of the magic strings for you. It doesn't really do any other kind of magic. It just specifies the method signatures that you're going to use.
Well, I really, really appreciate you walking me through this so slowly, Sam, because I feel like I have a much
Absolutely.
better grasp on it now, seeing especially like these two different, you call them clients, right? The two different clients and how they're working together with the same hub. That's
Same hub, yep. Same backend, yep. And actually, speaking of which, let me try doing the crazy thing that you all love, and that's me bringing up a VM, because why not, right?
Kevin joking, or did he really coin the term?
You coined the term? Yeah, maybe he did. Kevin is old. Kevin is older than me. No, he's maybe about my age.
Sam, you can't say things like that.
I know. I can say things to Kevin. He's my friend. I write the talks. There you go.
I wrote the doc.
That's actually very true. So Kevin, for all the fun that we make of him, but he is very active. A lot of the SignalR docs, you will see Kevin and Rachel Appel and those folks helping Microsoft write up those docs. So that's good for you. Okay, let me show you one more thing here, if I can. Because so far we have just talked mobile. Yeah, I don't want to do the update right now.
Like everybody like jokes about how old they are with different technologies, but to me it's crazy that all of this is so young. Like it just in the long scheme of things, like it's just so funny how fast everything's moving.
And enterprises don't move so fast, so which is why like there are migration paths. Like if you are using the older legacy SignalR, which again, not like in terms of the APIs, not a whole lot has changed. It's like what's underneath. The frameworks have changed from .NET Framework to .NET Core, but again, the APIs and the way you used it is about the same. So yeah, I mean this is all not very old stuff, because SignalR first started out back in like 2012, but then like everything that you see from like 2016 onwards it's fairly new. So I am looking at Windows on my Mac. Anybody else run VMs for their Windows?
No, and I can't believe you are so bravely doing it on the live stream.
I'm bravely doing it on stream.
This hurts.
Like literally, if we lose you, we all know why.
I don't need my furnace. My computer fan is good enough.
Visual Studio 2019, my rage machine.
So now, Alyssa, you're looking at Visual Studio on Windows, like the full-on beast mode with 1,000 bells and whistles that crashes all over the place. It's not so bad. Like Ed and me are making it sound. It's not so bad.
No, it's that bad. It's that bad. It made me mad this morning.
What made you mad?
Visual Studio crashed 3 times on me in the last 20 minutes before we started streaming.
Oh, I thought you would get VIN'd up and sworn it off. Why were you using it this morning?
Force of habit, I guess.
That was stop going back to. What's wrong with you? You're better than that, Ed.
I know. Sam, we need to zoom a little bit.
Yeah, I will, absolutely. But before I show you the desktop, and it looks like Matt Milliken is with me. I mean, he uses a VM as well. But let's go back to our web SignalR thing one more time, and we're going to pull this up.
That is your machine like beefy? Like what are you running on?
I can hear the fan, by the way. Oh no! That wins the internet today. I love that. Oh man!
You don't even know how funny. Oh my god,
that was not planned, folks. Like
I am a Mac user myself, and I see that Windows logo pop up, and I know in my heart, I'm like, we're on stream, right?
He's back. He survived the blast.
Oh my god!
Yeah. It was the wrong window. So
Oh my word!
We thought your PC went nuclear.
Kevin thought we kicked Sam.
We're
Making jokes.
trying to justify the whole Windows on Mac thing. We just kicked him right out.
I would. You shouldn't put it past me. I would definitely kick Sam for the lulz. Oh my word!
so we're back. We're back. All right.
I
So
think
we're
you
back.
use a different mic. I don't know which one
You're not hearing me clear enough?
we do hear you. It just sounds totally different.
Yeah, it sounds like a cheap, like built-in microphone.
Or is
Right.
it like? Is it the AirPods or?
It's a little bit. But so take down my desktop for just 1 second. I'm going to just change the microphone.
Already?
Take down my
So-
desktop.
Sam is fixing his earpods or whatever. Yeah, that was fun. I literally thought the machine like overheated and crashed or something because I could hear the fan just whirring in the background. And in all fairness, the lights dim when I turn my machine on. So
Oh my gosh! That's
no, they don't really. But
oh,
Is my
I totally believed you, Ed.
what's kind of funny though is the power supply on my new machine is still smaller than like the machine I had like probably about 8 years ago because technology has just gotten better. I used to have a 1 kilowatt power supply. I used to have a 1 kilowatt power supply on my old machine a couple of years back.
So Alyssa, oh, by the way, my audio is better now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So Alyssa, what Ed is referring to is what we call the power brick. It's called the brick for a reason because it weighs more than the computer itself. So the computer has the power to do all the things. And I'm on a Mac, and the most it can go is a 94-watt brick, which is good for most part, but it has its limits. Okay, so I'm back to the same chat app, but here I'm going to use something because like the desktop stuff runs on a VM for me, right? And that is a different machine boundary, so to speak. So I don't know if anybody else uses it, but I'm a big fan of this guy here. It's called ngrok. So what this lets you do is expose your localhost tunnel to whatever you want. And I already have that up and running. So if I go up here, I think I have it right down here. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to bring up my terminal, make it a little bigger so you can see me. Right? And if I go to my applications directory, and I think I can just go ngrok. Yeah, there you go. Anybody else use ngrok? Ed? Oh, maybe not.
No.
Okay, so this one's actually nice. So check out what it does. So I can do HTTP. So I'm saying open an HTTP tunnel. And since this is localhost and I'm running it on that 5001 server, so that's my SignalR hub. So I'm going to open it up on 5001. So what it does is it gives you this URL.
It doesn't want you to
up here.
ports on the stream.
Yeah, Kevin Griffin loves ngrok. Okay, so chat room, you can see this URL, right? Now don't hit on me too hard. It's a local machine, you can see it, but go to this URL if you can.
Wait, ooh, excited!
You're excited.
I'm excited.
Now somebody's gonna crash my local host, so please be gentle, okay?
Sam. Dang it!
Did you get it?
No.
Okay. I'll put it up for a second. I'll wait.
5.
Can you paste it in chat?
I can, but it's going to paste it from my Codeit Live account.
80 F 797.
And then 797ngrok.io. So if I grab this, now you can see people are hitting it. Nice. So this will essentially be a tunnel now into my localhost. Oh, there you go. Thank you for putting it in chat, so all of you can crash my localhost. But that's the thing I'm looking at. So you're looking at the same chat, and yep, your chat is showing up here. I can make it bigger. So the reason I did that is I need a URL to go to, and I need this guy. So because we are crossing application boundaries here, like machine boundaries here.
You ran out of sockets already.
Too many connections.
Wait.
All right, people.
Show us where you plugged in.
I will show you. I'm still on sockets. I'm good. Still good. Okay, folks, keep it friendly. Okay, I gave you a URL. Don't do not for work stuff. Okay. So here's what we're doing here, Alyssa. Okay, same exact dependency that we had on the mobile front. You see that? This is the same ASP.NET SignalR client, and this is the nice part of it. It's just the same .NET client that I'm using, and pretty much the exact same code that we had on mobile. So we had a hub connection, and we are connecting up to it, and we are invoking the send message when you do. And here we are connecting through that ngrok URL. So now when I hit this guy, let's see, start without debugging. This will make me feel even old, but it's nice, it works. So again, here I don't have the labels, but you get what I'm saying here, right? So go ahead and paste something from the website if you want to do something from the web chat client, and I can say my WPF says on desktop, right? And when I do a send, maybe, oh no.
What happened? What?
It did not connect. Maybe you folks did have me run out of WebSocket ports.
Here, I'll hop off. Does that fix it? If I hop
No,
off?
no, it fixes a little bit. It doesn't look too many connections. Oh yeah. So thanks, Kevin. Look at that. He's just posting, and which, by the way, is a very nice coursework that he has, SignalR Mastery. So yeah, it's just gotten a little too full. So hang in there. I'm going to give this little reboot. That's not me. All right. Let me see. User 1. Hello. Kind of back. And the ngrok channel. It's still up. See that switching protocols? That's every time it goes from HTTP down to WebSockets. All right, we'll try this one more time. User 2 says hi. Oh, there you go. You see that? User 2 says hi coming up right here, and Ed and Kevin's things are coming up. Yeah. So now this is it's not magical what's happening. That's not me.
That's not me, by the way.
No, that's not you either. So what is different here, Alyssa? This is what's called a WPF app. So it is literally Windows desktop, and it could be any Windows desktop, or it could be a console app. Anything, doesn't matter. We can use the same exact code that we did for mobile, and we can connect up to that same hub. All it needs is a URL. In this case, it's localhost through that ngrok channel. Make sense?
Yes. You just opened it from.
Oh, I opened it and closed it. I can try again.
Okay.
Because you saw those. Okay, folks. I said keep it friendly. Keep it friendly. Let's see if it's run out of connections again, or WPF can say.
So we've got
hi.
WPF, JavaScript.
No, it's out of connections again because everyone's hammering on it. It's a local host, yeah.
So we've had 3 different clients so far.
Yep. And between those 3, like you take a look at you take a look at the range of platforms you can reach, right? You got all things web, and not just web. You can do things from a PWA because it's all JavaScript that we're doing. And with the .NET client, you are covered for all things .NET. So which means you can do Xamarin Forms, which means you can do iOS, Android, you can do Tizen, you can do anything Windows, you can do WPF, you can do WinForms. Then you got Java for all of the Java clients. And then you got Swift for all of the native iOS clients. So we really are covering like a big plethora of platforms. I had an app, which I'm probably going to struggle showing this. because I haven't done this in a long time. I had a Apple Watch thing because it's again Xamarin Forms, which runs on an Apple Watch, right? So I can have little chat messages on my Apple Watch powered by the same SignalR hub that is my web backend. So makes sense. And all of it pretty much is using that same client side, especially for .NET. It makes it super simple. And it doesn't always need to be like the magic strings, which I'm showing here. I think I showed an example of carrying an object back and forth. But if you're looking for the type safety, do what like Ed was trying to do, or maybe you folks can build stuff. And the real Dave Bull is saying C#, F#, Python, .NET, C++. So you're covered across a large gamut of programming languages and platforms. And you can do type safety, so you know exactly what the methods are on the server side when you're invoking things from the client side. And from the server side, you should have an idea of the methods that you have, the functions that you have on every client side. If you document things right, if you do hub of the type T, then you have a little bit more type safety. So, makes sense, Alyssa? Any questions?
No, I really appreciate you answering all my questions and showing me this. I feel like a lot of things have been clarified this morning. So thank you, Sam.
Yeah, this has been really good, Sam. That's why we had you on. I knew you could give us some desktop and mobile perspective here. I know Alyssa was kind of trying to figure out the whole why is there so many clients type of thing. I think you answered that for her finally.
No, for sure, and clarified, even what clients are. So I really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Pixel Push Sharpo. Thank you. And you did not see my power surge go take down my stream. It was just
close the wrong browser tab.
Yeah, just
yeah.
excuses.